evening. It's now 6 o'clock, and I will call to order this online public meeting. It is October 4th, and my name is Julie Vaughn. I am the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. Regular meetings and public hearings of the Clark County Historic Preservation Commission are held in a hybrid format, with both in-person and virtual participation options for commissioners, staff, and the public. This will allow for safe participation by commission members, staff, and any citizen interested in attending. For those of you joining remotely via computer, you should be able to see tonight's meeting agenda on your screen. If you can't see the screen and have joined by phone only, I will be announcing the agenda items as we move through the meeting topics. Members of the public and applicants that have joined remotely are attendees. Other event participants cannot hear your audio unless you are acknowledged by the commission chair or staff and are unmuted. This evening's agenda is planned as follows. Roll call and introductions, prior meeting notes approval, public comment for subjects other than public hearings on this meeting's agenda, as there will be specific public comment periods as part of hearings, camp training debrief, old business updates and announcements, good of the order, and adjournment. We will now have a roll call of HPC members who are present for this meeting. Commission members, please say I'm here after you call your name. After I call your name. Jane Bader and Morgan Fraser have been excused from today's meeting. Andy Gregg.
Here.
Heidi Mandler Huff.
Here.
Elaine Thatcher.
Here.
John Zingali.
Here.
And I am here, Julie Vaughn.
Over there before, so.
Do we need to do it again?
And what if it's not?
Then
we
can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so should we do it again?
You're okay. Okay, moving on to the meeting notes approval. Does anyone have any comments on the draft September 6th meeting notes? Any updates or anything? No? Okay, hearing none, I will take a motion for approval of the September 6th meeting notes.
So moved.
I second that motion.
Okay, and the motion has passed. Thank you. Oh. For the meeting notes?
You had a motion and a second, and now you need to have the vote.
Oh, okay,
But
sorry.
it can be an acclamation vote. It doesn't have to be a roll call.
And now we need to vote on, all in favor, say aye.
I'll take the motion.
Okay. So we move to approve September 6th draft notes, meeting notes. We had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And the motion has passed. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. We will take public comment on any items outside of the public hearing items. We will begin with attendees in the room, but there are none. I'm going to move to the next piece. We will now take public comment from online attendees. Susan, can you please read the instructions?
If you're using a computer or the WebEx application on a tablet or smartphone, if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand. There are instructions on how to do this on the screen. Typically, the hand icon is located towards the bottom of your screen, but you may need to click on the icon that looks like a circle with 3 dots in order to raise your hand. For anyone on the telephone audio only option, please dial *3 on your phone's number panel to raise your hand. Staff will be able to see hands once they are raised and will request to unmute you one at a time. Please note, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person in order to accommodate all speakers. Holly Chamberlain, you can unmute yourself now.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners, staff, and guests. This is Holly Chamberlain from the Historic Trust. The Historic Trust is a sponsor for this week's Revitalize WA conference and is glad to be welcoming visitors from around the state to events, workshops, and tours at both Providence Academy and at the Historic Reserve. I represented the Historic Trust at Leadership Clark County's annual Heritage Session at Pomeroy Farm this past Friday. It was great to meet all the participants and talk about the importance of cultural resources, especially those in Clark County. Field work for the ground-penetrating radar investigation of the Sacred Heart Garden at Providence Academy was completed yesterday by Archaeological Investigations Northwest. Despite rain slowing down the numbering and signage process, renovation of the Academy's southeast parking lot has been completed and the lot is in use. All of the leasing and maintenance operations have switched to a new property management software, which brings a number of previously separate functions together into one that is more efficient. A dead maple tree bordering Barnes Road at the Post Hospital was removed today by contractor Arborscape. Given its large size, there is enough wood for Friends of the Carpenter to be able to accept it and use it in their various charitable woodworking projects. A new tree will be planted. A safety meeting was held for tenants on September 26th. An officer from the EPD offered security suggestions and answered questions. A new retail business, Crown Bridal, has moved into the artillery barracks from a previous location in downtown Vancouver. I believe this is the first retail business that has ever been a tenant in the artillery barracks. In regard to the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project, the Trust is in the process of providing comments for the SHPO on the determinations of eligibility and findings of effect documents, as well as for IBR Cultural Resource Consultants on the programmatic agreement framework. Event venue rentals are in their busiest time of year. September and October have 65 events. Revenue goals for the Historic Reserve event venues have already been met for 2023. The Trust is partnering with Columbia Play Project for the Pumpkin Party Pop-Up Children's Museum on Saturday, October 28th. The free event will run from 9 a.m. to noon at the Artillery Barracks at 600 East Hathaway and offers plenty of hands-on fun and educational activities such as the mini pumpkin launch. Costumes are encouraged. Registrations are now being processed for marchers in the 35th Annual Low Legacy Veterans Day Parade, coming up on Saturday, November 11th at 11 a.m. on Officers Row and environs. Over 40 groups are participating already, but more are welcome. Information on sign-up can be found at thehistorictrust.org. Upcoming on Sunday, October 29th, is Atomic Washington, Nuclear Past, Present, and Future. The Trust invites the public to hear scientist and author Steve Olson speak about the many ways that Washington has been a pioneer in the atomic age, with references to history, science, and popular culture. This free program from Humanities Washington begins at 2 p.m. at the Red Cross Building, 605 Barnes Street, Vancouver. The Washington Trust for Historic Preservation is administering, on behalf of DAP, the biannual state grants for historic cemetery, theater, and barn rehabilitation. The application deadline is October 31. More information is available at preservewa.org. The Trust has a job opening for a new venue coordinator for event facilities. The posting can be found on Bamboo, Indeed, Glassdoor, and the Trust website. If you know anyone who would be a good fit for assisting with venue rentals at historic properties, please let them know about the position. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Holly, sorry. Sorry, Heidi. Okay, this now concludes the general comment portion of this meeting. Next on our agenda is a camp debrief. We will now discuss the Commission's attendance, the Commission Assistance and Mentoring Program, or CAMP training, put on by the National Alliance of Preservation Commission on September 15th. And this is just an opportunity for us to share our thoughts and discuss what we thought of the training, what we got out of it, and if there's any just feedback for this particular type of training that we did. So this is an open floor to the commission.
Well, all of us attended the camp training, and I really found it beneficial. After being in this for a little bit, I really liked learning the legal basics for what we should be discussing, what we should be analyzing, as well as the guidelines and just how we should run our meetings. I found that great. I did struggle with taking notes as quickly as the topics were going, and I know that they said that they were going to send out the slides at least. I was wondering if we'd had a chance to receive those yet?
Yes, I apologize. I meant to send you all a link to them with the email I sent last week, and I just forgot. So I will get that done.
Not a problem. Thank you for saying that we got those, and I look forward to reviewing them. I really enjoyed the legal basics one, but that was a lot of information to cover and take notes on so quickly.
I agree. I also like the legal basis one. You know, as an attorney, I know a lot of that, but at the same time, in this context, it's very new for me. So that was a really nice refresher.
Yeah, I'll add, just that was kind of my first foray into all of this, and so I've taken lots of notes, drawing different things. For me, one of the most important things was seeing the different examples from across the country, specifically when they were talking about Portland, Maine, because I literally had just been there, and so having some different reference points to think about physically and know what they're referencing was really important to me. And once again, all of it, from the due process to the ex parte, I mean, yeah, it was very informative. My brain was full, but I was also very happy and enjoyed thinking of some new possible ideas and things. And being with all of you for the first time was great.
Yeah, we did. At least the two of us got to meet for the first time at that. So it was really good camaraderie-wise to get together and discuss, not just, well, meet each other, but also discuss items that might come to us in a context of a different city. I went to Denver, which is where many of our examples were right after, and I actually drove through one of their historic districts, and it was fun to look at the houses and be like, oh, they discussed things like that during the training. It's wonderful to see it in real life and be able to think of how it could be utilized here in Vancouver and Clark County.
Andy, would you like to say anything?
Thank you. I really enjoyed the entire day, that the sessions were dynamic, and that I learned a great deal of new information. But one thing I wanted to point out is that as much there was new information, there was also a great deal of affirmation, and that the practices and policies that we have been following as the Clark County Historic Preservation Commission reflects very good practice. And so there were, of course, elements that we could fine tune and enjoy incremental improvement. But I felt very satisfied that staff has been guiding us in increasingly good directions, and that the support we've received, for instance, from the legal department and accounting and other city offices and county offices were very affirming. And so I appreciated that.
Thanks, Andy. I just want to confirm, is Morgan Fraser on the line?
I see her name later on. I just wanted to confirm it's her.
Yeah, it's the iPad. We can turn that off.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure I didn't overlook her. Anybody else, any staff on the line that would like to comment or have any thoughts?
Everyone, this is Jason. Sorry I could not join in person. Yeah, I agree with everything that was said. I thought it was very informative. I really appreciate that everybody showed up. There's a lot of participation. Yeah, I'm just glad it was a good day, and I'm happy to hear positive feedback. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, and I don't have much new things to add. I was really excited that we came, so really appreciate the city hosting, our staff helping us bring it here, and it just reinforced my desire to get more design guidelines, which our subcommittee is doing, and we're working on that. But it was great to hear, too, that you can have them in place, even if they're general guidelines, that you don't always have to rely on the brief. So I'm definitely going to be following up with her. She gave me her card, and I need to reach out to her to find out how they did that, maybe get a sample, and we'll keep working on those. But I just found that was really insightful, because I just assumed, well, actually not assumed, I talked to many different people, and they also agreed that there wasn't really a way, and so it's nice to know that there is a way to do it. So looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, I think anytime we can use work that's already there to help build off of instead of just starting from scratch is going to help us and then help other communities down the road as well. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. All right, so moving on in the agenda, next is old business updates and announcements. And the first item for discussion is downtown design guidelines. And Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Jason, I
Sorry,
believe you're on mute.
You think I would learn by now. Sorry about that. So the city has been operating with rather outdated downtown design guidelines. It goes back to 1997. So about a year ago, we decided as part of our budget process that we would like to update our downtown design guidelines. And so we put together a budget and we put a proposal out, an RFP out for consultants to apply to help us draft updated new downtown design guidelines. So I'm happy to announce that we've selected a vendor, Ramey and Associates, with a subconsultant, Sarah Architects, out of Portland, to help us draft brand new downtown design guidelines. So we anticipate having the first meeting with Ramey later this month. But I wanted to bring this to your attention because obviously downtown and design guidelines, there's going to be some overlap with our heritage overlay districts, as well as some other potential buildings outside of the heritage overlay in downtown. So I just wanted to, first off, just bring it to your attention and let you know that we fully would like to work with you, collaborate with you as far as developing guidelines that benefit everybody involved. And so I anticipate the consultant coming to you, similar to what we've been doing with the Main Street Promise, the ARPA funding project, giving you updates along the way and asking for feedback. I anticipate we will be doing that with you as we get started in the process. So at this point, I don't have much of anything else other than that to share, but I did want you to know that you're going to be asked to participate in that process, and I look forward to working with you all as part of that. Does anyone have any questions?
Not so much a question, but I know that from our side, we're all looking forward to this, especially expanding the design guidelines in a similar way to what we've been doing with the downtown project.
I do have one question, Jason. What does it cover? When you say design, that covers a lot of different things, and I think facades, I think streets, I think sidewalks, I think lots of different things, lighting. So what does this cover? What kinds of downtown redesign are they thinking of, or are you contracting this company to do?
Yeah, so it's specifically related more to buildings than it is to the surrounding infrastructure, because we are aware that we've got the Main Street Promise project that's working on all of the right-of-way and public infrastructure piece of that. So we'll be working with that consultant in conjunction with that, but it's more design related to the buildings, massing, scale of the buildings. I mean, we're going to be asked to look at things as it relates to some of the code changes we anticipate are going to happen as part of our comp plan update. There's a move to obviously add more housing, more density, how that could potentially impact our downtown core. Looking at some outdated requirements, for example, retail needs to be on the ground floor. Well, that's great, but I'm sure you're all aware, it's easier said than done these days in terms of getting retail tenants into the ground floor space, or are there other ways that we can activate the ground floor space than just having solely retail there? So I think a lot's to be determined. I would be happy to share the scope of the contract with you all. Sorry, I should have done that in advance of the meeting, but I can pass that along to Susan and Bart and share that with you. And then maybe at our next meeting, you could get a chance to read that and have some additional questions for me.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sorry if I cut someone else off. While Julie was speaking, I remembered the questions that I had. And those will probably be covered in the document that you'll be sending over for the next class, or not class, discussion. I was curious as to how old they will be looking at for these items, and what architectural design points will they be focusing on, such as styles. Will they be looking at if buildings were built in the 80s, and what popular design features they'll be focusing on there, as opposed to, say, the 1920s?
Yeah, great question. So I think that's all we'll know more about that. We're planning a kickoff meeting with the consultants. They're going to be actually, they're out of Berkeley and out of Portland. They'll be showing up to the city, and we're planning a site tour where we'll be actually driving around so they can get the lay of the land and kind of assess the direction from that point. So I don't have too much more specifics as far as that goes. I mean, we do have a lot of, of our Title 20 zoning code that we need to try to remain consistent with, but that's all going to be changing as part of the comprehensive plan update in the next couple of years. So I think there's a lot of unknown at this point, but I do think it's important that we're looking at updating our downtown design guidelines now, because if we waited any longer, I think we'd miss the opportunity for a lot of development that's currently occurring in downtown to not be done using some up-to-date downtown guidelines. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but our downtown design guidelines are from 1997. They're hand-drawn pictures, and it's just time to update those. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. All right, hearing none, we'll move to the second item. The second item is a review of a presentation to leadership Clark County. It was a presentation given by Bart Catching, and he will give us an update on that.
And I'm just moving over to this other mic so that I don't have to lean over Susan.
Bart, before you begin, the next 3 items are for you. So is it okay if I announce them now and you can just go from one to the next? I guess we do need.
I think it's best to kind of take them
One by
one at a
one.
time. If you're asking my opinion,
I'd prefer to.
I mean, I'm here. I'm going to each,
Go ahead. Yeah.
each
go
one,
ahead.
and we can have discussion as we go along. So what I won't do is talk too long like I did at Leadership Clark County. In a nutshell, we were invited for the second year in a row by both Tina, the president, and Brad from the museum to have a speaking slot at their local history-themed meeting. Leadership Clark County is a local nonprofit group that promotes personal growth for people that are interested in participating in their program. You can look it up on their website if you want to learn more about the organization. But suffice it to say, every year lots of people go through it, and there are sessions every month, and one of the sessions is focused on history and the heritage of the area. So it's great that we're invited. Unless there's a problem, I anticipate that we will continue to participate every year. This last Friday, it was held up at Pomeroy Farm, up by Lucia Falls Road, and it looked like it was a great turnout and a neat venue to have the event. And Julie came to be there as well and speak. And they had a screen, and so I was able to give our general PowerPoint that we kind of use to introduce our program and the kind of things we focus on. They were running a little bit late because they had been out on a field trip. So once they got back, it was go time because it was the end of the day. I tried to squeeze as much information in as I could, but then I apologies to you, Julie. I felt like you weren't given quite enough time to really talk about you know, your experiences and things. So anyway, I think we were well received, just like last year. I think it's a good thing to do, and unless there's a reason not to, I'd like to continue to participate in that. And then just as a side note, the final person of the day, they gave the last half hour to Pat Gelada to talk about all kinds of things, and that was great, and I'm glad I didn't have to follow her. So anyway, Julie, if you wanted to say anything about your thoughts on the group there.
I was really excited to go. I thought it was a really great venue, and I had learned, you know, I'd hear you guys come every meeting every year and say that you went and did this presentation, but I didn't know anything about this group. So it was actually really neat to go and see what they do, and it got me interested in looking into them for next year's application. And they just do some very interesting things, and some of it looks like, you know, you may know what it's about, but anyway, it was just a great opportunity to kind of expose the public, a little bit of outreach to demonstrate what we do, and Bart did a great job presenting, so I was glad to be there. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
I got to attend one of their meetings a little earlier this spring because actually one of my students was being honored too, because they do an outreach to youth programs too. And so what's awesome is it's not just like, I think it's like under 40 or under 35 is when they do their big awards, but they also have a high school piece of that. And that is just, if you ever get the chance to go to that, really inspiring, because it's interesting because people always use that term future leaders, but I digress. These kids in high school are current leaders, and it's really inspiring to see them integrated into all this. And so great program.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. All right, moving to the next agenda item. The next item is an update regarding the historic promotion grants. Back to you.
Yes, so the application deadline was the 15th of September. We received 2 complete applications this year, which was less than the last couple of years, but they're significant's not the right word. They're all significant, but they're sizable grant requests, so it might be a blessing in disguise that there's only a couple of them, and they are from the museum is continuing its request for its digitization project that they've been working on the last few years, so it's just another phase of that. And then the trust, the Historic Trust, submitted an application for their work. I don't actually have the details memorized, but anyway, probably the 2 things that merit some discussion this evening, and Susan, please jump in if you think of anything else. First off, we need our 3 volunteers, or could even do 4, but 3 is usually good, to be the review team for that, for the grants, and to score them, and then help us craft the recommendation to then come to you guys. What we would like to do is have a formal recommendation by next meeting, and then immediately get that paperwork to county council, so that we don't get squeezed like we did last year timeline-wise. And then the other thing to bring up before you start discussion is that 2 of the grants from last year, right, have been unable to fully complete their work during this calendar year, and so I don't need to go into the details, but there's 2 requests for a extension, which in budgeting terms basically means their money that they would have been paid this year if they had been complete gets rolled into next year. And because we only have 2 grant requests this year, we've already talked to our finance folks, and the budget works. We can say yes to that, but that would be kind of included in our narrative and our staff report to council. So with that, I would, if folks want to talk about who would want to be on the review team, that would be great.
Could I ask, am I?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we discuss who wants to volunteer, can I ask the feasibility of the 2 extensions? Like, is this a project that can be finished in the next year? Because I know part of the discussion of the application is it feasible to be done in 1 year? If they weren't able to complete it in 1 year, are they on track to complete it in the 2nd year?
One of them definitely, it was just a contractor issue, I think, that slowed them down. So it was out of their control, just a deliverable type physical thing. I can't remember, Susan, what the second one was. Can you remember? I don't want to say the wrong thing.
I can look really quick, but I think that was also a contractor issue, that it was a timing of getting all of the work done through the folks that were helping them.
Can I ask a clarifying question about the budget? So it sounds like this comes from this year's grant budget, or because we already awarded the money, correct? From previous budget that we had for grants. And so to me, they would just have an extension of using that funding, not rolling it into this year's.
It's all the same fund, so that's the.
But
but there's a limit
that our budget this year. It's not depleting this year's budget.
No.
It's because that's specifically for applicants for this year.
If they had been able to complete their projects this year, the money would have been there.
In the same place.
Yes, it's just that there's a council mandated cap on a policy cap on how much can be awarded each year. And so the way that the finance folks need to think about an extension is rolling that money into the next budget year. And so it's not an issue for this particular year because we only had 2 grants, and even if those grants were fully funded, the extension money could still be added into that and not exceed the cap.
Okay, great. So let's talk about the first one for volunteers for the subcommittee, the grant review subcommittee. Anybody here interested?
I'll volunteer.
Andy? Okay, great.
And I will say it's not a big time commitment.
Not at all.
It's maybe 1 2-hour meeting and then maybe a follow-up shorter meeting.
I'd be interested.
Okay.
Great.
And, you know, being brand new to this, I want to kind of get my feet wet in all this, so I would also say I can help out.
Okay, great. So Andy, Heidi, and John, thank you guys. And yeah, I will just say I did it my first year too, and it was around the same timing, and it was wonderful. It was so great to see what the community was applying for, and then to have the chance to say yes to them was even more fun. So great. And so one of you will chair that group and set up the meeting with you, and will you be doing that, Bart?
It will probably be me this year, yeah, and we'll do it sooner rather than later. You'll get coordination and contact from me probably early next week, and then we'll find a time that works for everyone's calendar.
Great. Thanks, you guys. And then the second item about the extension. Did you need our approval for the extension, or was it just an FYI?
No, that was just an FYI.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
But Susan was going to say
Yeah, and just to let you know, so what happened was the place where the applicant was going to access the archives, they reduced access to some of the files, and so now they can't get in until early 2024.
Okay,
So
I think I remember that one. Great, well, good that they can, so, okay. Excellent, thank you.
Otherwise, I would just say, like, as someone who just had some work done, I know contractors can, everything is delayed right now, so that's completely understandable.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the fourth item, and the fourth item is a check-in on the rules and procedures update. And I can just give a little bit of quick background. This was, so in past meetings, we have, it has been brought up that we need to collectively go over the rules and procedures and help make some updates collectively instead of having it assigned to one person or staff or even a subcommittee. And we had mentioned doing this work and then it wasn't revisited. And so we're bringing this back up so we can get that back into the works. So over to you, Bart.
Yes, and I think this is very timely, especially with the new members that we have, and the workload that we anticipate in the fall. It looks like this is doable. We'll back up just a little bit and say that when I was first brought on to support this commission, and Jackie was still mentoring us, Jackie Camp was still mentoring us, there had been some preliminary work done on this project already, and so she handed that off to me, and I did a fair amount of work with Susan and back and forth with Jackie, and the idea was that we wanted to give the commission digestible chunks of the rules and procedures, not just, dump the whole thing down on the table and say, let's tear it apart in a meeting, because that wouldn't have been very productive. And so we did talk with the group a year and a half ago or whenever that was about starting with the bylaws, because that made sense, and that's probably the part that gets used the most. And there is a pretty well fleshed out draft that got to the point of being put in front of the attorneys. Not Tricia, who's on the line here, she hasn't seen it, but Chris and and Becky, I think may have seen one version of it, but Chris definitely did. And that's where it stopped. And so this is something that's up to you guys to discuss about how you would want to approach this. One way we could do it is we could take that first chunk that a significant amount of work has been done on, which is the bylaws, and give that draft to you folks. Could be for the next meeting, whenever you want to look at it. Send it to everyone, get comments back, and then see if it's in a form that we could move forward with approving, because this group approves their own bylaws. This doesn't need to go to anyone else for permission. It's fully internal, but it does need to be voted on and reviewed. Another approach would be to back up, take a couple steps back, form another subcommittee, have that committee really look at it again, because it's been almost a year since I've touched that work. I don't have a preference. I'm staff. I'm here to support. Susan and I are here to support. We've created a document that has gotten a significant amount of work put into it. It looks quite a bit different than what we currently have. We modeled it a lot on actually the current Planning Commission rules and procedure, which has some updated language and things like that. So it just depends on how much time you guys want to devote to it.
I have one initial thought, and that would be, I think it would be helpful to have them as a complete document, just for our own reference. And I think actually you're going to be talking about that in a second, Susan, so I'll back off a little bit. But, yeah, those are two good proposals. Does anybody have thoughts or preference between those?
I have a thought and preference. Sorry, I was looking this way, so I didn't know if you two did. Or Andy on the camera. I personally, well, two thoughts on this. I think it would be a good idea for the bylaws to be sent to everyone to approve. I think this is bigger than a subcommittee, as we all have to agree on the bylaws when we're working on projects. I also believe that there are a lot of subcommittees right now working on different tasks, and if we want them to succeed in what they're doing in a timely fashion, it would be good to not build another subcommittee. So for those two reasons, I think it would be great to have this section sent to everyone for review and comment.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I just think I like that because it also honors the work that Bart has been putting in and doesn't, I think if there's some major issues that come up out of that, then we can revisit, but whether we need that subcommittee. But if there's substantial work already put in, I think we should honor that work and take a look at it.
Yeah, I agree with that, John, and thank you for bringing up all the work that Bart and the rest of the staff have put into this so far. We're really coming into, for example, the baking process when the cake's nearly in the oven.
Andy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, and thanks for asking.
Okay. So it sounds like the interest is to collectively do this. What I would propose is that we still break it into chunks, and so we're not necessarily having to read the whole document before next meeting, but that we are assigned, so next meeting we're going to discuss these pieces, and then we're all prepared to discuss those pieces and have our changes and so forth. Would you like us to send them to you before the meeting so you could consolidate them? Or how would you like us, because I think we should have the working meetings, like part of it, to discuss those things, but I'm not sure if that's at that point you would want to see them, or if you would want them to see them in advance. Like how should we organize ourselves?
I'm going to ask for Susan's comment in a second. My initial preference would be to do just that. I think that's the most productive way to do it. I had some conversations with Jackie and Susan before Jackie left, and our thought, unless you guys had a different way you wanted to approach it, because again, these are your rules, and all of the commission will vote on it at the end of the day, would be that not try to, it wouldn't make much sense to approve them piecemeal, because it's all in one document together the way it's structured right now, but to review them in phases, and then when everybody's happy with it, then approve the whole thing at the end. So that makes it a little bit different than the recent rules and procedures that were done for the Planning Commission or the council, where they were just looking at one thing, because then we have, well, your favorite subject, design review section, is later, and that actually will, we haven't done really any work on that, so that will be a lot of more heavy lifting, revising, and so you guys can make the decision whether you want to get the bylaws updated and just have that done and then work on the other parts, or do it all at once. But it's ready to send to you, and so I will send the most recent draft that was sent to legal counsel a few months ago, and then you guys can start looking at it.
Okay.
No, so, okay. So.
Yeah. Did you have?
Well, did we get comments back from legal counsel?
Nope.
Okay. So the order would be that you would have commissioners look at it and then legal counsel after? Or
my thought now, as we're talking it through, and we may have another thought after the meeting, but is that type of comments that this group is going to have are not going to conflict with any major comments the comments that legal will have will be more, you should cite such and such state rule here or something, versus a timeline or something. But if you think I'm being naive, then maybe we should. Our legal counsel is very busy at the moment, so I don't know that we'd necessarily want to wait on that.
Okay. Were you? To me, it seems that the legal should look at it after, because we may make changes that they need input on, as opposed to they give their comments and then we could rip that apart and not know we were ripping anything apart. So to me, it makes sense that we would just take a look. I have seen these before, but I can't recall. Are they done by, I feel like we need to kind of have a task in a sense, so that we know what we need to be prepared for our next discussion. So if we're getting the document sent to us, is it in chapters? Would we look at a certain, or sections? Would we look at a certain section? Would you be able to kind of draft something to say, these are how we're going to break it up, so we kind of have a sense?
Yeah, the last time we formally talked about this, there was kind of a work plan, a staff report and a work plan, so we can update that. If you guys are ready to go on it, which it sounds like you are, then I think all we need to do is update our work plan and then get going on it. If there's capacity in the next meeting. I mean, the only other thing I can think is that, do you want to do this as just set aside a half hour of the next meeting, or when and how to do it would be a question.
I think it'll be we'll have to see how the agendas play out. But in my experience here, when we did some code revisions and we just built it into our agenda. And so we would have that as one of our agenda items, that we would get the attachments ahead of time like we do our other materials, and we would review, have our comments, and come with our comments. And then we would do a round robin. Everybody would have input for what their comments were, and then staff would take those comments back and make those revisions. And so I envision something similar where you just build it in. And that's why that knowing the sections and not too big, just digestible chunks that we can get through them, in that round robin and so forth. That's how I envision it.
The only thing that I'll say is let us check in with our legal counsel to make sure she's comfortable with reviewing it all at the end, and how we will work out if there's any issues there that she has with what's been drafted. But we'll check in with her and make sure that she's comfortable with that. But I agree. I happen to know some of her schedule, and she's very busy right now and would not have time for this. So that seems like a good thing for schedule-wise.
Okay.
And just to give you a sense of the size of the document, I mean, I was just pulling it up again today to remind myself what the last version looked like, and it's about 8 pages, double-spaced Word document. It's not a huge amount of text. So
that helps a little bit.
yeah, it's no, the whole packet, the whole part of the binder there is 49 pages or something, but that includes the design review and other things that need a fresh look. So this first part is after we get an opinion from legal, we can get that to you.
That is calming for the fact of reviewing it, but also a little enlightening that it's only 8 pages double-spaced. It's very interesting.
Well, bylaws don't need to be terribly long to get. I would encourage you to look on the Planning Commission's rules and procedures, because they get a lot into a short, sparse document.
No, that's good to know, and I will definitely look at those before we review our own.
Okay, thank you, Bart.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we move to our next agenda item? Okay, seeing none. We will move on to our fifth item. This next item involves information on member binders. And this is a topic covered by Susan.
So this is a very short item. In the past, everyone has had hard copy binders. We have sent the information that was in those hard copy binders to everyone electronically, but it's not easily accessed. So we're working on getting everyone hard copy binders again. Got some of that done recently, but they weren't ready for this meeting, but we'll bring them to the next meeting.
That's great, thank you.
Thanks, Susan. And yeah, just for information, transparency, it's a really great tool and that we can look through to know our codes, our overlays. It also has things like Robert's rules on how we vote on things, and it's a nice thing to have on hand. So thank you so much for that.
I know I was starting to print that out, but it'll be better to have it organized by her and
Yeah.
easier to follow through then.
Exactly. Okay. Any other comments or questions for that? If not, I'm going to go ahead and move on to item 6. Okay, our 6th item is a review of the HPC memberships. As you all know, we pay for certain memberships, and Susan's going to give us an overview of what comes with those memberships.
Okay, so the first membership is the NAPC, and everyone should be receiving emails and information from NAPC at this point. And so if you're not, let me know. We have to send them a list of members, but everyone should be, you each have a 1-year membership because we held camp. And so, yes. And so previously, we also paid, yes, $150 group rate, basically. And so each year, we update the names of everyone that we send to them. But we did that with camp this year. So if for some reason you're not receiving information, let me know.
Yeah, Susan, I haven't, the only emails I have are from you and Bart, so.
I'd have to double check, but I am pretty sure that I am also not receiving emails.
Same here.
Okay, well, that's disappointing. So I will check into that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They also have a listserv, so you can also sign up for their listserv. And I think when she sends whatever information she'll give to you, if you sign up for that, you can tell it what emails you want, how often, if they're consolidated, and it has some good information on there. It's a lot. I do get them, and there's a lot, even for me. So just to say, once you start getting them, you'll know. and they're interesting, but they're also timely, right? So if you don't read them, then you kind of just don't catch up. Just start with the next one.
And time-wise, it is possible that that membership didn't start until the camp was actually held. So that could be the reason, but I will check into that.
And I'm sorry, I didn't ask Andy. Sorry, Andy. I don't know if do you get them or have you? I want to make sure you have a chance to say yay or nay if you're okay with what you have.
I do get emails, and maybe it's because I've been getting them for a long time. But and I seem to be on a lot of lists of commission-related stuff.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right, go ahead, Susan. Sorry.
So I had not planned to go through all of the membership benefits. Everyone's got the document. Did you actually want to go through the individual items?
No, I don't think so. I apologize. I didn't see this. Can you scroll just so we can see maybe just the high level? The ones I'm most interested in are the local things that I would like the commission to know. There are local things that they have access. We all have access to.
And you were not able to see this before this evening because I just finished it.
Oh, okay.
For the meeting. So,
that's fine.
yeah.
Okay, good.
So everyone in the room has a hard copy and it is online. But yes, was working on this right before the meeting.
Oh, okay, so you'll email it to us? Or when you say it's online, you mean like on our agenda meeting note? Okay.
Yeah. So the Architectural Heritage Center, the amount that we have given is, I think we would consider a donation. It's a non-standard amount, and it does not correlate with their group membership or business membership. So I don't think there are any benefits from that.
No worries.
Just, and certainly we could discuss different rates for some of these if we wanted to, but at this time, I don't think there's any benefits with that membership. The Washington Trust, the amount that we donated for that is $100, and that does correlate with an organization rate. And so there are membership benefits, although some of them are somewhat individually oriented, I guess I would say, because like number one, complimentary tour for the historic mansion and a guest for the member and the guest. So it is a organization membership, but some things are still somewhat individually organized. But this is one that you should be able to also, like you mentioned for the first one, sign up for their listserv, so you can get the emails no matter, you know, however, if you're a member or not. So I would, and I can send you an email with links to all of these, and you can go and sign up. So the next one is the Clark County Genealogical Society. Sorry, had trouble getting that out. This is, their memberships are individual and joint, so they do not have a group membership. The amount, so I think this would be considered a donation without benefits, but, and you can see with the membership privileges that they're all really organized for individuals. The next organization is the Two Rivers Heritage Museum, and we have given $100 this year and in years past, and an organizational membership is $25. So this would be considered a membership and an additional donation. They do have a hard copy newsletter that goes out, and I think it only goes out twice a year. So we will, when we get that, we will try to make copies of it for you in your packet.
Okay, or you could just scan it. Yeah, I was going to say scan it and just email it if you don't want to print. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay. The next organization is the North Clark County Historical Museum. They are a very small organization. I looked on their website, and there wasn't a lot of information, but they did have some ongoing activities that were listed that they do have at the museum. Okay. And the final one is the Clark County Historical Museum. We have a curator level membership, and I've listed all of the membership benefits. There is, for example, free admission for up to 6. We do have 7 members, so, you know, we could talk about a different level of membership or just allowing, you know, 6 members to have those benefits.
Susan, to clarify, so for example, in this Clark County Historical Museum one, it says like 2 haunted walking tour tickets. If I showed up for that, would that be taking away the tickets from everyone else, or like how does that work?
Yeah, I have to admit, you know, even though these organizations have group memberships, it's a little bit confusing exactly how that works. I haven't done this, but I could call them and find out more about how they would like that to work. Because it is a little bit confusing.
I think I have a family membership every year just because of a lot of the other work I do. I can double check, but if so, then I wouldn't necessarily need, I have access to a lot of things already through that, but I believe that's how it would work, but if you could double check, that would be great.
I was just reminded, Brad from the museum is not online tonight. He has re-extended his standing offer to give anyone personal tours of the museum, especially for the newer members. So I just wanted to remind everyone of that. The doors are open there.
If you haven't already had the tour, it's actually, well, it's not actually, it's really cool. They have some surprising items in their storage space, and walking into their storage space is fantastic.
And their archives are pretty impressive, even just on site there, notwithstanding the digital archives that they're doing. Yeah, just email Brad directly and tell him who you are, and he'll arrange it with you.
Yeah, and it's actually fun to do like at least once every year because it does change up. They rotate different things, and I was there for the port one. It was like 2, 3. That was awesome, and it's just great to learn about all the different things because it does. Yeah, he does a great job curating all of that stuff, and yeah, getting down below is we can nerd out.
We can nerd out hard.
Thanks for putting that together. That was really helpful. Yeah, that was really helpful. Are there any other questions or items from the commission? From commissioners? Okay. All right. Great. And the next item is a budget update.
Yes. So this is my item as well. Just wanted to go over the registrations that we have. So we had registration for Revitalize Washington previously. That was $368. But we do have 2 commissioners, Thatcher and Mandler Huff, going to the Pass Forward Conference in Washington, D.C. And so I will scroll down, and you can see under this conference details section, the hotel, the registration, the tours, the group membership. It was actually cheaper to become members and get the membership rate than it was to have 2 people register that weren't members. And the flight, all of those reservations have been done. And then there'll be some costs for transportation and per diem. And so you can see the total of, it's still approximate, but $5,700, which for 2023 would leave us with approximately $800 left in the budget. And it is a 2-year budget, and it rolls over to 2024, any of the amount that isn't spent in 2023. And Jason, if I've gotten any of that incorrect, please jump in, but because it's a city budget, but I'm pretty sure that it rolls over to 2024.
Yeah, that's correct. It does roll over. And we were also talking about in our agenda planning meeting, the idea of potentially increasing the budget. It's currently at 10 grand a year, just with rising inflation costs and everything else, that might be a consideration for us to do. So I'm looking at that in terms of potentially increasing the budget for future years, and I could report back out on that hopefully by the next meeting.
Great. Thank you. There was something you mentioned that I was going to ask. I apologize. Oh, that's it. Is it a fiscal year that ends, is it a calendar year, or is it a fiscal year? And if it's a fiscal year, when does the fiscal year begin and end?
So, Jason is coming up. I'm pretty sure it follows the calendar year.
Okay, so in January is when it'll roll into the budget, next year's budget. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that right?
And we operate on a biennium budget, so we've years in ahead. So we've already budgeted 23 and 24.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. And for the commissioners going to the DC Pass Forward, I hope you guys have a really good time. And, you know, the expectation now is you have to do a presentation.
John, you weren't here for last year's, but I think it was my first in-person of the year, and Julie had come back from it. And I sit down, and she does her overview, and she has this beautiful presentation set up with pictures and beautiful backdrops and everything. It goes very into detail about each thing, and the bar is high.
It is.
I just, who are the two going? Because I can't remember.
Elaine and I.
Okay, that's right.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions regarding budget right now? No? Okay. All right, moving on to our final item, item number 8. The final item is a check-in on the Revitalize WA conference. And this is just for anybody who would like to discuss it. It's happening right now. So I can see Elaine leaning forward, so I'm going to mute myself.
Sorry. Several of us just came from the grand opening session, and it was, from what I was able to see, it was a wonderful start. I sadly will not be here for the rest of the conference, but for those going, it's shaping up to be something wonderful, so I hope you all enjoy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think most of the conference is still to come, but I'm definitely looking forward to it based on that opening. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable. The mayor was there, a senator was there, directors from many places, the poet laureate was there. It was pretty spectacular. She was particularly amazing, but we had to leave early. But yeah, I'm excited.
And Andy's presentation, when is that?
And Andy, yes, Andy, please tell us.
Tomorrow morning, 10:30 at the Kiggins. I will be presenting the business historical timeline of how the Kiggins Theater has survived through the Great Depression, Second World War, suburban flight, downtown Vancouver's quiet years, through to the 2 resurrections of the theater as a motion picture palace, and most recently how the Kiggins Theater survived the COVID-19 pandemic.
I was just going to say, I will not miss that.
And for those of you who attended the J.P. Kiggins session at the museum, I have in possession of some rare archival film footage that was taken right at the close of World War II. And this 16 millimeter film was rescued from a closet when the #1 Vancouver fire station was going to be torn down and rebuilt. And on this film is remarkable footage of downtown Vancouver's movie theaters, including the Kiggins, that show how inclusive Vancouver was during the World War II years, and happy kids of all descriptions getting ready to watch a movie in the Kiggins together. And the juxtaposition of this artifact will be that from the projection booth of the Kiggins Theater on its big screen will be projected for the first time in 80 years film footage of the Kiggins in the Kiggins.
That's really great, Andy. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for doing that, Andy.
Well, I'm very excited about it, and in fact, in many ways, it's a lifelong ambition, having attended movies there myself since the 1950s. And so I'm feeling hopeful, a little intimidated, and wholly nostalgic about it. So hopefully it will be a very well-researched piece that has come directly from the heart.
Well, having heard you discuss Vancouver history and your love of it at the museum earlier this year, I have no doubt it's going to be wonderful, and I doubt you need to be nervous. You're a fantastic public speaker, and you will represent us well.
Thanks for that confidence. I really do appreciate it.
Okay, any other comments or room for discussion around Revitalize Washington? Okay. Before we go to the good of the order, I just have two friendly reminders we talked about before. I apologize, they're not on the agenda, but we had discussed them at camp. The photos, I was curious if you could tell us a little bit about the photos and how they turned out and all that.
Yeah, the photos are stuck on the SD card. Last year I upgraded my home computers, and SD card readers are no longer installed on them, so I'm working on getting an adapter to pull all that stuff together. I've been busy at school, and I just got back from a trip at Google, so it's on my list of things to do in the next little bit, but I have to get a special adapter now because, yeah, technology changes sometimes quicker. It's a regular SD card, which used to be in my MacBook, but all the new MacBooks are just USB-C, and so I have to get the adapter.
We have minis on our laptops.
Yeah,
We had an adapter.
I think I found access to one. I just have to sit down and find a little bit of time, but they look good. I think I've got what I can, viewing it on my camera, but it'll just, hopefully once I have that adapter, I should get them to you in like the next week or so is the goal.
No problem, just curious. And I don't know if you need to buy one. I mean, I imagine some of us among here could have some.
I have one. Either I have to dig it out. Like I said,
Okay, you have access.
I have stuff at home. We had a remodel going on. I'm trying to unpack and find the exact stuff. No, it's there. It's just taking a little longer than I thought.
Well, thank you. Thanks. And then also just a friendly reminder to everyone, the bios that we are going to post on our website, if myself included, need to write them. And if you can send them to Susan before next November's meeting, that would help us then be on task ourselves to get them. And yeah, I'm seeing a question.
We'll just, what's the word count? What are we looking for on that exactly?
Word count is a good question. We're looking for just a couple of sentences, maybe a short paragraph, something that will be on our website, so it'll be for public consumption, that tells people a little bit about your background and maybe something fun about you.
I have them in all different lengths, so I'm just trying to figure out what
You can send several if you want, and we'll just see what fits.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, and we haven't, the subcommittee ourselves haven't done we still have yet to meet again, and so I think by next November's meeting we will have met, and then we can kind of begin from that point.
As a member of that committee, I also forgot this was something I had to do.
Okay. All right, well, we're moving to the end of our meeting. We'll turn to good of the order. Does anyone have any good of the order to share with our group?
I just want to thank everyone again for being so welcoming, onto the commission. It was a wonderful day to go spend with all of you at the camp. Learned a ton, and it was great to just hang out. And like I said, I'm looking forward to all of this. So thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Bart and Susan for organizing and facilitating such a smooth evening for the HPC. And I would like to also compliment Chair Julie on running a great session.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. All right. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that. And all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you. This concludes this Wednesday, October 4th, Historic Preservation Commission meeting.
Thanks, everybody.